Good morning, all. Thank you for those that have joined me. Not a great deal to update. Obviously, I think initially last week when we spoke, or when we met, we were hoping for something on Thursday. Obviously, that changed with Boris giving an announcement this Sunday. So in light of that, I think if there's anything school-related on Sunday evening, I probably will hold another one of these on Monday morning. Not that I'll have any answers about how it will look, but just so to reassure you that any announcements made, that will be obviously expediting plans about transition back into school. I'm sure those of you are on Facebook or have seen any leaks from news, from journalism around the country. You may have seen the Irish plan. The Irish plan is a 5-phase plan, much like the government, our government, are probably looking to adhere to as well over the coming months. And if you have seen that, schools aren't really mentioned within the Irish plan. Whether that's going to be synonymous with the UK in terms of children going back to school, I think the main concern that the government have, as much as probably you do, as well as I do, is children's understanding around social distancing. And I think the biggest worry for the government is having a second spike, albeit children not necessarily being a priority in terms of the infection spreading, but children can carry it. And obviously these children that are in schools now currently are obviously of those that are families that are working on the front line. So that I think it'll be an interesting announcement on Sunday. And if there is anything school related, I'll do another one of these on Monday morning. Which I think that give me some time. I think it's a 7 o'clock, an evening announcement, just some time to think about that in terms of preparing things. Just trying to be ahead of the game a little bit, really. We had a staff meeting on Wednesday, and we've already discussed plans, and staff are already looking at how we can start filling gaps if there is any notification around children coming back to school before the end of the year. There will be opportunities for parents to communicate with us. I'll obviously be in contact with you all the time regarding those transitions. And apologies, I think we've got a drill going off somewhere. So it will be a lot clearer on Sunday, and I'll hopefully be able to give you a more updated, more of an updated communication about what we're going to do. From the local authorities' point of view, I will go inside, folks. From the local authorities' point of view, they are already putting in place certain plans for the children and staff and parents. Sorry about that. In terms of mental health well-being. So we know that they're devising a plan for all involved, for the community, school communities, about how children transition back in. I know that's one of the things some of you have mentioned before, in terms of children being once again familiar and changing a routine again. I think from my experience, children adapt quite quickly and they're very, very resilient. And I think they'll all be looking forward to coming back to school. So that's something they're going to support us with. And indeed, all of our messages come from the local authority. And so I'm just passing, and they meet in their COVID-19 COBA rooms, I suppose, every day, and we get the minutes from those meetings, and I obviously glean out some of those things that I think be worthwhile sharing. So mental health wellbeing plan in place. They're also looking for the children in year 6, those that are transitioning to year 7, putting in some transition videos for them, so they can watch those if we're not back in school, if the year 6s don't return. So it's something for them to look forward to in terms of helping them understand what that might look like, because obviously it's a bit artificial not being in school. And I would say to the year 6 children and the parents, those who are listening, we are working with the secondary schools that the children have been allocated already via Zoom and online, which actually in some respects is more efficient, is better, just because we've got time to do it and to go in a bit more depth about your children. So there's a bit of a silver lining there. As much as it'd be nice to have them in school, we are passing on essential information and having longer discussions around children. So to best make sure that they're prepared in terms of the school and that they know your children when they arrive in year 7, whenever that may be. So I've passed on many other queries, particularly I'm sure those that might be working in this arena around the PPE issue, face masks, hand sanitizers, which schools can't get hold of. We were promised a lot earlier in this whole process that we'd be receiving essential equipment, and we haven't received those yet. So again, it makes the job a little bit tougher in school, and that's why I'm looking forward to what he will say on Sunday, because I think we would all be trying to explain social distancing to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds and asking them to adhere to those is incredibly tough. I mean, it's tough enough with having just children in at the moment, because obviously they're kids and I quite understand that. They're very tactile, which is lovely, but it's going to be tough. So as I said, on Monday, I'll do another parents forum if there's any mention of schools. If there isn't, then we'll go with next Friday. Obviously, there's a live chat there, folks. Those of you that signed into your YouTube account, if you've got any questions, please fire away. I think we've only got 23 of you today. I think it's probably in light of not much really to talk about, but that's all the updates I have at the moment. Those that watch the assembly, we have done something for the children, which would be a nice surprise for next week for them. Hopefully they'll receive this particular surprise on the same day as everybody else, we hope. But it wasn't my idea, it's one of the teachers' ideas, and so hopefully they'll enjoy that. Please, obviously, thank you so much for continuing with the homeschooling. We know how hard it is, and it is, I suppose, from what I said last week, it's nice to actually spend some time with the children and discovering things that we might not necessarily have the time to do. But equally, I know how hard it is to try and structure your day around some tasks and some kind of essential learning. I have a governors meeting on Monday. So we have a full governors meeting on Monday. It'll be via a media platform, an online platform. And one of the key questions that have come out of that they've asked me is about gaps in learning. I completely appreciate that what we're asking the children to do is to make sure they're still honing and developing those basic skills of times tables and reading and phonics, very important, and writing. So we know that those key skills are being honed by you at home, and they'll always continue when they return back to school. In terms of how we monitor the progress of what's been happening at home, please do keep sending items of work in, because the staff will use them to help support any reporting to you, which obviously I know you're expecting an annual report, and I've still mentioned to the teachers that they need to write one. And obviously, if we've got no summer term assessments, any work that you send in is always going to be useful, and obviously will help with some of the comments and the writing of those reports. So thank you for that. And I think what we'll do is, I'd imagine, and this obviously will be some support from the local authority with this, is to baseline children when they arrive back in September, and to kind of really see where the gaps are, to help support that first part of the autumn term and fill those gaps as best as we can. I think for me, content obviously is important, but skills and the acquisition of the skills and refreshing of those skills is probably the most important, so they can access the next year's curriculum. So we'll be focusing predominantly on that in that first term back, which makes sense. And that way, staff have a greater opportunity to streamline some of the teaching when the children come back. Obviously, this will be slightly different for those that are starting into the infant school, but obviously those parents aren't with us now. But for everyone else, I think we'll obviously look at the previous assessments, see all the things that the children have done over the last 6 to 8 weeks, but then we'll be continue to focus on baselining those children and their understanding of those key core skills. Okay, so Caitlin's mum, can we send them physical work, i.e. books and worksheets, by leaving them at the school gate? It's a nice idea. I think I prefer if you kept them And then when we're allowed back in school, I think what we'll do is we'll communicate that, and then you can come and drop them off. It might be what we're allowed to do that. I think if you looked at the plan, it says something about groups of 4 meeting up with friends and family. That's the Irish plan. So whether or not, I think rather than leaving your work out the gate, I'd hate for anything to happen to it. But I think if you can keep hold of it for now, and keep it in one place, and then we'll have a discussion about how we can get that work in. Although I can understand there may potentially be a library of work coming in September. Okay. Arlen's mum, you said, are there any plans for social things you spoke about? You're gonna have to remind me. Social things, is that in terms of class Zoom sessions? Yeah, we've spoken about that, and it might be quite difficult to manage if we had a whole class. Now, it's basically, it would be asking every single family to have quite a quiet background, because if you've got a lot of noise in the background, I mean, having done staff meetings on here, you have to mute everyone, which I think is going to be really tough for children. And I think the opportunity for the staff to send videos and for you to send photos, I think for now is okay. But yeah, but I think in terms of Zoom sessions, it might be quite difficult to manage. I don't think it'd be as effective as it sounds, particularly with kids who might want to just say things all the time, which understandably, why wouldn't they? But we'll keep reviewing that, and we are constantly reviewing how we communicate with you. But as I said last week, I think Dojo at the moment seems the best way, and obviously the staff are putting on videos and comments and activities still. And I understand that quizzes go on, and I know it works well in those groups. I'll definitely pass it on. I did pass it on last week to the staff, who obviously have had similar experiences with friends and family. And at the moment, they feel Dojo is a bit more effective than perhaps Zoom might be, which might limit children to actually wanting to say things. But certainly we can talk about it again. It's not a problem. Yeah, and I agree with you, Ms. Costa. I think it's easier when you're managing it at home with other friends and other families. Yeah. Okay. No, yeah, it's absolutely fine. I think we'll talk about it. As I said, I've got a meeting this week with the staff, and myself and Mrs. Smith talk all the time. And I can't see why it would be too much of a problem. The only issue would be is obviously email addresses, inviting everyone to that meeting as well. So there is a practicality element to that, and inviting everybody at the same time. Yeah, we talked about having maybe Zoom class Zooms every day, which obviously I know that might be quite difficult to manage with staff who've got their own families to deal with. And I know some staff are uploading videos via Dojo, and again, it's about managing it and having a consistency with that, because some families might be able to do that at home and some might not be able to. But yes, we'll put a pin in that, and I'll certainly discuss it with the leadership team of the school. Mr. Donnelly, no, we haven't had anything through about a grammar test yet. Like I said, I get a daily update and that hasn't been mentioned. I did pass that on. If the children choosing to take it to be prepared enough, that's something that obviously we'll support with in terms of we can give you an idea of their cognitive ability testing and their level that they're at. But that is obviously something that you will need to manage yourself and organise yourselves, as the school doesn't obviously provide the kind of preparation for grammar tests, although we can pass on some names for you. But again, that will probably be like this for the time being. Okay. Can I just emphasise that this forum is about general things. I understand that people are maybe frustrated or got concerns about their own families, but please let me know individually if you're concerned about that, and I can help and communicate with you directly. as opposed to this general form, if that's okay. Thank you. Anything else? No. But as I said, we'll talk about the Zoom. And as I said, there will be some communication for the children next week. I can't give too much away, but I will definitely talk to the folks about class Zooming. Thank you. That's a good question. At the moment, the discussion around any classes being separated or mixed up, we've had a few, but at the moment, for year 2, I can't see any reason why they can't stay in their own classes. Obviously, the policy of the school is that we always look at this at the end of the year, and it's a bit strange at the moment because we're not with the kids, and we look at every single cohort going through, and some cohorts change radically more so during the year, and that's the only reason why we look at mixing up classes, just because of provision and supporting those children, and they do change in the 10 months they're with us. And at the moment, there's no intention to mix any cohorts, but let's just see. But I'm not doing that at the moment whatsoever. Any suggestions on keeping the kids engaged for longer than 5 minutes? You could give them a 10-minute task, I suppose, an egg timer. Yeah, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I think the only advice we can give, obviously, I've said before, not to try and create such a structured classroom at home. Some children really like that, and I appreciate they like to get up and they can do 2 hours of work, and that's brilliant. And there's some children that can't. And I think if you've got a plan in your head what you'd like to do for the day, and the children know that, then it's easier to manage. And as I said, I think before, if there are any children that require a phone call from Mr. Priest, I'm happy to call them, and I have called some children, and I've seen some wonderful work. I think, like I said, if you pick up things during the day and conversations or activities you've done, or some things that they've picked up, any interest that they have, that generally is a good way. And I understand that, not being teachers, to kind of just work off the hoof and just think, oh, that's a great idea. But it's surprising how resourceful people can be when they think, oh, my child's mentioned something about plants, and then you go and buy some plants and you can plant some in the garden, or you can then do a non-chronological report or information fact-finding report about those particular plants, and it's interesting. And obviously the Alchemilla mollis that I put on today, that's something I found out. I thought it was fantastic. So yes, following interests, and I think the star, and if you contact your class teachers about any particular interests that they have, we do have resources at our disposal we can email to you and put on Dojo. And obviously, Ms. Costa just said about Miss Malley setting bespoke projects, and we can do that for you. It's not a problem. If the children are finding either the Oak the Oak Academy or the Robin Hood Trust a little bit taxing and a bit too structured, there are lots of other things you can do. And if you contact the class teachers who are aware that you're more than happy to contact them, will do all they can to provide for the children and for you any guidance that they can give. So yeah, following your interests really. And as I said, I think on Sunday we might be allowed out a little bit more. So hopefully you can go out and do a bit more exercise. And you never know, you might find some gliding owls as well. And I saw a nice picture. I'm just trying to remember who sent it to me. I apologise for this, but someone sent me a picture of some moorhen eggs, which was lovely. They were on their walk, so that was good to hear. Yeah, I understand that. Well, talking is good. I'm all about oracy and children talking, and I think we're quite blessed in a way. If you want to see a silver lining in all of this, that we're able to talk more to our children. And the opportunity for children to talk to us a lot more. Getting things written down is a struggle, and I've always used a paperclip method with children. if you want them to write so many bits, put a paperclip at a certain point in the page and say just write down to here, then take a break and then move the paperclip, and then at the end they can celebrate their achievements of how much they've done. So by all means use something like that. It obviously engages them and it motivates them, and you're not asking them to do a great deal all the time. If you're fortunate enough to have a printer at home, obviously visual aids are useful to keep them interested, particularly if you're writing a report. And I can't remember what the theme is this week on the Robin Hood Trust. But last week I looked at an animal with my son. I was lucky enough to be able to print a few pictures off, and we did a fact report on some bears. It was interesting. He didn't know anything about bears, so that was quite, and I didn't actually, for a great deal. Most docile animal apart from the gorilla on the planet. So, but yes, no, recording doesn't have to be writing. Yes, talking is great. And I think there's lots of apps now you can use on your phone for children, and to record any of the work that they're doing. I think that's great. Indeed, get them to, if you've got family who are able to be on Zoom or other online platforms, get them to tell extended family about what they've done, what work they've done, send them photos of it, engage the rest of the family in some of the work. And that's something nice. And then luckily you might have received some tasks from extended family. They might say, "Oh, can you do this for me?" So yeah, I think there's a ripple effect once things get going, but completely understand that it is tough, and it sometimes, and I think it's being honest with yourselves and thinking not stressing too much. If you know this is going to be a bad day and they're not going to engage, then don't stress of trying to complete anything. Don't pressure the children to do anything. There are other things you can do. That doesn't mean they have to write or sit down at a table. There are lots of other things that the children can do. I think it's just, again, reassuring all of you that you're doing a fantastic job, and that it's just important not to worry about how much you're getting done. If you're focusing on those key skills of times table and reading and blends and reading to your children, and you've mentioned here about having conversations with them about just random things, for me, that's just as much education as it is to sit a child independently and get them to write a report for an hour and a half. Although there's some children who will like doing that, and that's great, but don't put yourselves under too much pressure, and don't feel guilty that you're not completing things, because let's be honest, you're not teachers, you're mum and dad, and you've been thrown at the deep end, and we know how hard it is, and we completely empathize with the difficulties that you're having. If you're fortunate enough to have a child that will sit there and just do whatever you want for 2.5 hours, then you're very lucky, and I suggest probably not commenting on the live chat. But I can't imagine everyone is going to have a child like that or children like that, especially if you have a number you have to deal with at home. So yeah, choose the right time to set tasks, short and sharp, interesting for them, and it doesn't make you feel too guilty. So I'm sure you're getting to noon and you're pulling your hair out maybe, but just remember, whatever you're doing is helping. It's helping, and every day you do it, you'll be doing something different, and your method of how you engage your children is also improving. And I don't mean to patronize at all, but it is. And we're seeing the outcomes, and children doing lovely things. And I know I couldn't read out loads of names today, but the ones I've read out, these are the kind of things we're seeing from all children. And it's fabulous, and the work that they're producing. So it's impressive what you're doing. So well done. Lego, yes, Lego is fab. Many discussions around Lego. I have a whole bedside table of Lego where my son has built random things. He calls them his creations. He doesn't know what they're called. They're just creations, and that's it. It's a bit of a pain having to take them all off and polish the tops, but other than that, he enjoys doing it. Okay, I think anything else, folks? Just it's VE Day today. I think I posted about 4 weeks ago something about a picnic in the front garden. I can't remember now on Dojo. I think people around the country are maybe having picnics in their front garden today to celebrate those that sacrificed World War II. So it'd be nice if we could see some photos of people that might have put some bunting together or have made a Victoria sandwich or finger sandwiches. I'd love a finger sandwich. I was very fortunate. Mrs. May made some egg sandwiches and some tuna sandwiches for our VE Day, VE party on Wednesday. So that was great. Fabulous. Okay. Right. I will be in touch. Please look out for a notification on Sunday evening after the announcement. I think it'll be around 8 o'clock-ish. I will let you know if there'll be any forum on the Monday morning. So if we say 11, is 11 o'clock okay? Yeah, that sounds like a resounding yes. If there's anything there, I will contact you on Sunday to say yes, we'll go ahead and we can talk about that. And I'll have some discussions with staff, no doubt, on Sunday evening around those things. But yes, have a lovely weekend, all of you. Stay safe, go out for your walk. It's going to be a lovely weekend. Look out for those things that we don't normally see or have the time to notice. But thank you for stopping by. And I will hopefully see you on Monday with some further updates. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye-bye now.